Good morning, or good afternoon, or good evening, whenever you're watching this. I'm so glad that you're with me today on Dirt Road Believer. I'm Tina, and if you're new to Dirt Road Believer, welcome and thank you for joining me. I invite you to like, share, and subscribe this channel. There's a devotion every Tuesday and every Thursday, along with a family video from our family. Today is our final day of January Genesis. We've been on this series, January Genesis, all throughout this month, and we've kind of gone at warp speed, but we have finally made it to the end, which is about Joseph. And today's devotion is the history of reconciliation. Reconciliation does have a history, and you can be a part of it. So stick around for the devotion and learn that. Today we're doing a science experiment. My son Coleman really wanted to get together some things that he found online for this cool science experiment. I'm going to let him tell you about it. But enjoy this video, and if you have kids, this is something fun and easy that y'all can do together. And then I'll see you right back here for today's devotion.
Okay, so as Mom said in the intro, that we're doing a science experiment, and this is called elephant toothpaste. I'm pretty sure Mr. Beast has the world record for it right now. But all it is dishwashing soap, like, what is that? For the cup? Okay. And then yeast. But we put soap.
Move, Molly.
We put soap in it to, like, it basically makes the bubbles bigger or something. I don't know what it is, but you get hydrogen peroxide and do a third of a cup.
I think it's half, isn't it?
Half? I don't know.
What's the side say?
It says a third cup right here. Okay, so you got that. Now I'm going to put some blue watercolor in here, or it looks cooler.
I think that's good.
And then, it's cold here. And then what? Some warm water.
No, why don't you go ahead and put all these ingredients in your vase, and then mix up the other, so it'll stay warm. Okay, so half a cup of peroxide with blue food coloring, or coloring of your choice.
And then
your soap.
Where do I put the yeast? Right here?
No, the dishwashing soap.
Yeah.
Pour it in.
Okay.
That's just Dawn dishwashing soap,
Yeah.
a fourth a cup.
And then
you're going to mix up what?
warm water and a packet of active dry yeast. Oh, I ripped too much. No? Okay.
Why do you think dry yeast? What's the yeast do?
Big Brain said that the yeast expands. Big Brain is Crawford. So that.
Okay.
How much of this do you think?
It says a little, so I mean I would just do
This is
half a cup or less.
How much?
You pour and I'll tell you when to stop.
Okay, that's good.
I think a little bit more maybe.
Yeah,
Okay.
it's good.
It's an experiment, right?
Experiment.
Not an
And then
exact
get
science.
Then get your science.
And he's mixing it with a very scientific tool,
This
a stick.
makes it very.
You use what you have, right?
Okay, yeah. And then.
Oh goodness.
Get all this stuff.
What's gonna happen? You can stack those.
It should be big because we put a lot of.
So what's supposed to happen?
It's supposed to go boom.
It's supposed to explode, right? Or not explode, but
Not
like
explode, but
expand.
expand very much. A lot.
Oh, this is exciting! I hope it works. Are we?
One small step for man, one big leap for mankind. That was not very interesting. It's foaming, but I say it's all the water.
Perhaps you needed more water.
No, I don't think I needed more water.
Well, it is expanding.
A little bit.
But this is not... So, let's rethink this.
Okay.
Okay? Take 2.
Nasty looking. This is sad.
It's coming up.
This is very sad. I think we just need to do more. More of everything. Yeah? I think we just gotta do the rest of everything we have.
You know what they say.
Third time's charm.
Okay. Let's rock and roll.
It's more green than blue.
This looks like more.
Yeah. Way more. And here's the yeast.
Here we go.
Come on. Be big, be big, be.
Oh, yeah. Oh, look at it.
That looks so cool.
That is so cool. You can't even see the container it's in. Now, what did you do different this time?
3 times more.
Oh, you just upped everything?
Mm-hmm. I know there's different ways to do it that makes it way better. It's the only way I can find it. I want to touch it. It's warm.
Well, because your yeast was warm.
No, what? That wouldn't make the whole thing, though.
Elephant toothpaste.
No, toothpaste.
Any advice to anybody who wants to try it at home?
Go big. Or go home.
Go big or go home.
I want to stick my whole hand in it.
Does it just feel foamy?
Yeah.
Well, in your effort to get all these things together, you sort of made a mess in the kitchen. So, stop that. You got it in your hair. As I said, this is our final devotion in our January Genesis series, and I'm glad you've been a part of it. If you're just now joining us, no big deal. You can hop in where you are, or just go back to the beginning. They're all on this YouTube channel, along with tons of other devotions. So you can always find what you need here if you are in a relationship with the Lord and you are searching His will for you. So here we go. Today our text comes from Genesis 42 and 44. So if you want to grab your Bible and follow along. All right, so much of the devotions that we have covered through the book of Genesis, we're going to see a lot of these things that we've studied repeated just within the story of Joseph. Genesis ends with the story of Joseph, and we had one devotion on sibling rivalry. And we definitely see sibling rivalry play in here, because you'll remember that Joseph's brothers were so jealous. Joseph was a little haughty. He was kind of bratty, and he liked to brag. And so his brothers took him, threw him in a well. Let's let him die there. And Reuben had somewhat of a conscience because he'd already offended his father. No, let's don't kill him. Let's just sell him into Egyptian slavery. That sounded like a much better plan. So they sell him into Egyptian slavery. They take his coat, cover it with animal's blood, take it back to his father Jacob. Jacob assumes he's dead because of the blood on his coat. And then Joseph is thrown into a major test. And we saw where Abraham was tested. So here comes the test again. And this test would reveal Joseph's obedience. Now we're going to jump into the story today, where Joseph has been very important within the home of Potiphar until Potiphar's wife falsely accuses Joseph of rape, and he is thrown into jail for the next 13 years. Yes, there the test begins. A test that will humble him and bring him, test him in his obedience. And when he's let out of prison, he interprets Pharaoh's dreams and immediately is second in command to Pharaoh. Talk about the fast track, right? Well, now there's a famine all over the land, and Joseph literally holds the key to all the grain to feed the hungry people. So here enters his brothers, whom Jacob, the father, has sent because their family is going to starve to death. So their family has expanded. Now it's like the science experiment. The family has expanded. And see, I knew I could tie that in somewhere. And now they have like 70-something people in the family because there are wives and children to consider. So they get to Joseph and they don't recognize him. He looks very Egyptian. He's had to learn a different way of talking and different customs. So here they are looking at their brother. Their brother they don't recognize Joseph. Joseph recognizes them. I mean, the last place they're expecting Joseph to turn up is a powerful man over Egypt, right? So let's get to our text. We're going to start, and I'm going to be reading from chapter 42, verse 1 through 7 to begin with. So, let me grab my glasses. When Jacob learned that there was grain in Egypt, he said to his sons, Why do you just keep looking at each other? We got to do something here. He continued, I have heard there is grain in Egypt. Go down there and buy some for us so that we may live and not die. Then 10 of Joseph's brothers went down to buy grain from Egypt, but Jacob did not send Benjamin. Remember, we talked about that. Joseph's brothers with the rest of the others because he was afraid that harm might come to him. So Israel's sons were among those who went to buy grain, for the famine in the land of Canaan was great also. Now Joseph was the governor of the land, the one who sold grain to all his people. So Joseph's brothers arrived and bowed down to him with their faces to the ground. As soon as Joseph saw his brothers, he recognized them, but he pretended to be a stranger and spoke harshly to them. Where do you come from? He asked. The land of Canaan, they replied, to buy food. And now we're going to skip over to verse 22 through 24. Reuben, by the way, it was Reuben's idea not to let him die in a well. Reuben replied, Didn't I tell you not to sin against the boy? But you wouldn't listen. Now we must give an accounting for his blood. They did not realize that Joseph could understand them, since he was using an interpreter. He turned away from them and began to weep, but then turned back and spoke to them again. Reuben has figured this thing out. Back to the beginning. Sin has a consequence. Chapter 3 of Genesis, if you missed that one. Reuben has sinned against his father. He's been involved in this plot to make Jacob think that Joseph is dead. And he's like, guys, what did you think would happen? There was going to come a day where there would be an accounting for our brother's blood. Little does he know that it is his brother that is standing there with the power to make them be accountable for their sin. Joseph is very moved, but he still needs to see his younger brother Benjamin. So if you read the passage, you can see that Joseph uses his power to mess with his brothers a little bit here. Well, not a little bit, a lot. He puts them in great duress, even his father, but that's the only way that he can get Benjamin in front of him. So in chapter 45, the brothers have now returned to Joseph, and this is where Joseph makes himself known to them. So we're going to go to 45, and I'm going to follow along verses 1 through 11. Then Joseph could no longer contain himself or control himself before all his attendants, and he cried out, "Have everyone leave my presence." So there was no one with Joseph when he made himself known to his brothers. And he wept so loudly that all the Egyptians heard him, and Pharaoh's household heard about it. Joseph said to his brothers, I am Joseph. Is my father still living? But his brothers were not able to answer him because they were terrified at his presence. Then Joseph said to his brothers, Come close to me. When they had done so, he said, I am your brother Joseph, the one you sold into Egypt. And now do not be distressed, and do not be angry with yourselves for selling me here, because it was to save lives that God sent me ahead of you. For 2 years now, there has been a famine in the land, and for the next 5 years there will not be plowing and reaping. But God sent me ahead of you to preserve for you a remnant on earth and to save your lives by a great deliverance. So then, it was not you who sent me here, but God. He made me father to Pharaoh, lord of his entire household, and ruler of all Egypt. Now hurry back to my father and say to him, This is what your son Joseph says. God has made me Lord of all Egypt. Come down to me, don't delay. You shall live in the region of Goshen and be near me, you, your children, your grandchildren, your flocks, your herds, and all of you. I will provide for you here, because 5 years of famine are still to come. Otherwise you and your household and all who belong to you will become destitute. I titled this devotion, Reconciliation Has a History, because of something that happened in Joseph's childhood. You may remember this from one of our earlier studies. Sibling rivalry is the devotion where we covered this. In Genesis 33, Jacob and Esau, remember they were estranged brothers, meet after 20 years of separation. After some bad things have gone down between them. Remember, Jacob stole Esau's blessing from his father Isaac. And Esau was ready to kill him for it. But as they meet, Jacob's terrified that Esau's going to kill him now, 20 years later. But instead, he embraces him, he hugs him. He has forgiven him. He's moved on. Joseph was a part of this reconciliation. He was witness to it between his father Jacob and his uncle Esau. You can read in 33:2 that Joseph was front and center for this well-rehearsed display that Jacob's family had gotten together so that when they met up with Esau, it would show that they honored him to avoid Jacob getting killed, right? And Joseph was no stranger to the story of a brother who had every right to punish his brother for wrongdoing, but choosing to forgive and to reconcile instead. That's what he chose. That's what Joseph chooses. He forgave, he fed, he loved, he protected his family. It was his appointment. And he saw it as that. He didn't begrudge the fact that he spent 13 years of his life in prison, that he had it so bad for so long that he was estranged from his family. He was sold into slavery. I mean, he could have really focused on that instead. But he said, you know what? You thought you were selling me into slavery. God appointed me into slavery so that I could save you. I could redeem you. And so what I want you to take away from this and remember is your children are watching you. And they pay attention to how you treat others. They know if you get back at people or if you forgive and continue on in relationship with people. They know if you cut people off or if you have the door open in your heart for reconciliation. And so give them a history of reconciliation, because just like Joseph, it's going to come around to them and they're going to have that memory of what my mom did, what my dad did, what my grandparents did. How was that resolved? Was it reconciled? And it will leave an indelible mark upon them that God will be able to use in their life. I hope you have a wonderful, wonderful day. God bless you. And until next time, slow down. Take the dirt road, believer.